Fridays are awesome. Seems to me I've said that on air at some point before. I'm Carl Azuz. This is CNN 10, your daily down-the-middle explanation of world news. First stop this Friday is in Brazil. It's the largest and most populated country in South America. More than 200 million people live there. And its government has just announced plans to allow mining in part of the Amazon rainforest where it used to be illegal. The Amazon is gigantic. It covers more than 2 million square miles. Brazil's government just abolished a reserve, a protected area that covers about 18,000 square miles. Mining won't be allowed in all of that. The government says it'll only be legal in places where there are no conservation rules and areas where no indigenous people live. But why the change? Brazil has high unemployment. It's around 15%, and the country just got out of its largest economic recession ever. The government says the region it's opened up for mining has a lot of minerals, gold, and iron, so it's looking to attract investors and create jobs. But activists and environmentalists say this will cause more deforestation in the Amazon, that local cultures would be damaged, and that water resources and biodiversity could be lost. Brazil's mining industry accounts for about 4% of the nation's economy. The government wants to revitalize it and grow it to about 6% of the economy. Also making news today, the next step in the education of a woman who risked her life to learn. Malala Yousafzai is the youngest person ever to win a Nobel Peace Prize. As she prepares to go to college, she's sharing her excitement with followers from around the world. In 2012, Malala was shot by the Taliban, an Islamic militant group that strongly opposes education for women. She survived and continued the work she'd been doing to promote education for women.
We need to invest in education. This is something that cannot be ignored. This determines the future of many children, and especially for regions like Iraq and Syria, which have gone through conflict. Education is the only way through which these countries can go forward and achieve progress.
Malala hopes to get a degree in philosophy, politics, and economics from Oxford University. 10-second trivia. Which of these scales ranks the intensity of hurricanes by their wind speeds? Beaufort scale, Fujita scale, Richter scale, or Saffir-Simpson scale? Ranking a storm's sustained wind speeds in categories from 1 to 5, the Saffir-Simpson Hurricane Wind Scale is the measure for hurricanes. Up next, trouble at sea. A storm named Harvey is brewing in the Gulf of Mexico. Forecasters initially thought it'd only be a Category 1 hurricane at most, but that changed yesterday as the system churned toward the Gulf Coast of Texas. The National Hurricane Center said Harvey could strengthen to Category 3 status with wind speeds of at least 111 miles per hour before it makes landfall Friday night or Saturday morning. Harvey's threatening to bring heavy rainfall and flooding to the Texas coast, as well as a dangerous storm surge, a rise in sea levels blown ashore by the hurricane. Residents were stacking sandbags last night and boarding up windows. Some people in Corpus Christi were ordered to evacuate.
Tropical systems come in all shapes and sizes. You have tropical depressions, tropical storms, and once it is strong enough to become a hurricane, you have 5 categories, with Category 5 being the strongest. The states most frequently hit by a hurricane: Florida, Louisiana, and Texas. But as much as we know about hurricanes, forecasting them is still a challenge. Just as we name each storm has its own personality. Like Katrina in 2005, which intensified rapidly overnight, going from a Category 3 to a Category 5. It became the 4th most intense hurricane on record as of that time. And the forecast track can change dramatically, like Erica in 2015. Or a system that can be viewed as relatively weak, like a tropical storm, could end up like Tropical Storm Allison in 2001. The remnants of the storm stalled over southeast Texas, dumping 35 inches of rain over Houston in just 5 days. The storm became the first non-hurricane to have its name retired.
A coffee shop in Wilmington, North Carolina had lines out the door the first day it opened. Within 6 months, it had outgrown its space and needed to move to a larger location. That's pretty unique when you consider the sheer number of coffee places in America. Then again, Biddy & Bose is a pretty unique place. All of its profits go to charity, and its founder is a CNN hero.
What'd you do in PE?
Flying.
Running?
Yeah.
Did your sneakers help you run fast?
Yes.
When you become a parent of a child with special needs, you are instantly thrust into being an advocate.
Mommy. Look.
Trying to make people see the beauty in their lives that we see. Ben and I have 2 older daughters, and then we have Bo and Biddy, and they both have Down syndrome.
You ready? Here goes.
People are scared of what they don't know, and so we've decided to live out loud and to show people what our lives are like. People with disabilities, sometimes the world just passes them by. Most of them are unemployed, and we really felt like we wanted to do something about it. And it was like coffee shop.
Hey guys, good morning. Welcome to Biddy and Bo's. What's up?
Other than our 2 managers, everybody that works at Biddy and Bo's Coffee has an intellectual or developmental disability. Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, autism.
And your first latte of the day.
We figured out what their skill set was and we plugged them in. Now we have 40 employees.
You made them feel welcome. That's awesome.
When you just give them a chance, they can do anything you ask them to do.
It's nice to see you.
Our employees are like celebrities now. When people come into the shop, they want to speak to Matt and they want to dance with Trevor. For most of them who have never had a job before, it's really exciting.
Bonjour, monsieur.
Having a workplace that makes you feel proud of yourself and gives you a sense of community is something we all want.
I love Amy so much.
Oh, I love you too, Richard.
This is the perfect way to bring people together and to let them realize how much more alike we are than different.
The employees are really warm and welcoming. It's like a Starbucks with lots of extras.
I always leave just filled. My heart is overflowing every time.
We always say it's more than a cup of coffee. It's a human rights movement. It's given our employees the respect that they deserve. It's allowed them to shine.
Interviews gone amok. This Q&A gets a perfect 10 out of 10, not for the subject matter, which was supposed to focus on milk allergies, but for one of the young subjects who decided she wasn't there to talk, she was there to take over. Her mother tried to keep a straight face. The anchor just rolled with it, letting her do whatever she wanted. The result was one of TV's most highly acclaimed interviews, at least by watchers on social media. I can tell you from experience that news isn't child's play, but who doesn't like a little kidding around? It's not like she was climbing the walls, she was climbing the furniture. She was walking on air, and her good-natured host kept the anchor desk from becoming a ranker desk. I'm Carl Azuz, and we hope your weekend is a perfect 10 out of 10.